Dave Meltzer has reported that Konnan is set to induct Rey Mysterio into the Hall of Fame. And does this increase or decrease your expectation that there is going to be a big angle at the Hall of Fame on the eve of WrestleMania weekend?
So do we know that it's still going to be a part of SmackDown this year?
Yes, it will be immediately following SmackDown.
I think it's very likely, because this is an induction that happens to be so closely tied to a match this year, and because they're talking about it so much in the build up to that particular match, it's very likely you will get some reference to it. But I still hold out sort of like the expectation that we're going to get a very satisfying and heartfelt, real sounding, like real speech from Rey. I think that's at least the expectation. Like if there is an angle, I don't think it'll take away from the authenticity of that moment, at least.
Do you think that the audience itself is more receptive to storylines and angles during a Hall of Fame when it's piggybacking off of a wrestling show as opposed to its own ticket that you're selling people to? Where I think, you go to some of the other Hall of Fame speeches that I don't think people want that kind of thing. But in this new format, do you think that it'll be more readily accepted?
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, you're seeing the Hall of Fame speech in the same setting as you just watched the fictitious play. But they could make a real statement. I mean, if it was previous years, I wondered if Rey and Dominic were involved in a storyline like this, if Dom would sit in the crowd with Angie and just like cry at his father's speech. I wonder if that would occur. I think maybe an interesting basis of comparison is looking at the way they treat these press conferences, where it's a very mixed results. Some guys come out and are Austin Theory. They just completely play their characters. Others are very much talking as themselves, like a Sami Zayn. Will they give the direction for their talents to, hey, it's the Hall of Fame, treat it like it's real? You're not playing your characters, you're talking as yourselves. Will there even be an opportunity to see much of the talent, because they don't sit? Were they ringside last year? No, right?
They had the makeshift seats by the entrance, and then they would walk down. So they had the talent like sitting up by the entrance area. Okay.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see, but something tells me, because this Rey Dom feud is like such a focal point of this year's WrestleMania, something tells me that they'll probably try to protect that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm really glad they're going with Konnan. He is the perfect person to induct Rey, and I was a bit surprised that it does tell you that they are open to people that don't have much of a WWE history doing, the big induction.
Yeah. The more interesting question is if that person had like a strong, like if that person was an AEW contracted talent, like somebody who was maybe more considered to be like a part of direct competition, if they would feel the same way.
Yeah, it's a question. I don't know if it would necessarily prevent it or not. You would think that there would be more of an issue like that, but I guess you would have to look at it by a case by case,
like some example. like Muda, for instance. Sting would be a good choice as somebody to induct him. Just given
he'd be a great choice, and it ultimately would come down to the companies, like what is in it for us, and who makes that call? Like, is WWE willing to go to AEW to ask for that favor? And what would an AEW want in response to that? I mean, they're, these are two companies that are at war with one another, and how accommodating would they be, even though that would be the person that you would think so. So we should also add that PW Insider has added that it seems like they are close to finalizing an agreement that Stacy Keibler would be inducted as well. And that would seem to pair up with what we heard from Mick Foley recently, stating that he had been reached out to induct someone. And perhaps that is...
Mick Foley and Stacy Keibler, did they have much of a on-screen history?
Not on screen, but they were friends. And when you think about, who would you want? I mean, if you were getting inducted and you want someone to give you a great speech, you could do a lot worse than Mick Foley. He would be high up there. And if you've got a friendship with the person, I mean, that's who you're picking. And honestly, maybe there's one other, but a class of 3 to 4, that to me is sort of the magic number for these ones, I think.
Right. Yeah.